We're keeping Christmas simple this year. Small gifts for everyone, nothing fancy. My mother's voice had that practiced tone, like she'd rehearsed it. Standing in her Denver kitchen that October afternoon, I watched her smile at my 9-year-old daughter Briar, then immediately turn away to fuss over my sister's twins. Something twisted in my gut. I didn't know it then, but that promise was a lie. And on Christmas morning, when my daughter opened a package of gloves while her cousins tore into $1,400 phones, she'd whisper 5 words that would shatter me. "Mom, did I do something wrong?" But here's what my family didn't know. What nobody knew. For 4 years, I'd been paying $950 every single month for their health insurance. $45,600. And I was about to take it all away. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't what you do to someone, it's what you finally stop doing for them. Let me take you back to where it all started. That October afternoon in Denver, I stood in my mother's kitchen pouring myself coffee that tasted burnt. My daughter Briar sat beside me, 9 years old, still young enough to believe family gatherings meant something. My sister Paige was at the dining table, her twins Reagan and Sloane glued to their phones, thumbs moving like they were in some kind of competition. "That sounds fair," I said, trying to mean it. "Briar will be happy with anything." Mom smiled at me, but her eyes didn't. They had that distant thing going on, that look she always wore when she was planning something I wouldn't like. I should have trusted my gut right then. My name's Cordelia, 37 years old, single mom. I work as a regional operations manager for a medical supply company. Long hours, decent pay, enough to give Briar stability. Her father? He walked out when she was 2. Decided fatherhood wasn't his thing, so it's been just us, building a life together, figuring things out as we go. I've never asked my family for money, never needed their approval. I show up for holidays because that's what you're supposed to do, right? Maintain those connections, even when they feel more like contracts than relationships. Paige finally looked up from her phone. "Mom, the twins really need new phones for Christmas. Their cameras are terrible. They can't even take decent photos for their social media." "We'll see," Mom said. That non-committal tone, that evasive answer. My jaw tightened. Paige's husband Kyle worked in tech sales. They weren't hurting for money. But my sister had always been exceptional at one thing, making people feel obligated to give her more. "What about you, Briar?" Mom bent down toward my daughter. "What do you want for Christmas, sweetheart?" Briar shrugged, her shoulders barely moving. "Maybe some sketch pads? Or those watercolor pencils I saw at the art store?" Mom patted her head. Once, twice, then immediately turned back to Paige's twins. "How's your volleyball going, girls?" And just like that, Briar became invisible. I watched it happen. Watched Mom light up for the twins. Reagan and Sloane, 14 years old, already fluent in entitlement. Watched her hang on their every boring word about school drama and friend gossip. Watched Briar's face go quiet and still. This wasn't new. Growing up, Paige got the bigger bedroom, the nicer clothes, the expensive birthday parties. I was the easy one, the one who didn't need much attention, the one who could figure things out herself. Somehow, that pattern had transferred to our kids. But here's what nobody knew. What I hadn't mentioned to anyone yet. I'd been carrying this family in ways they couldn't even comprehend. Supporting them financially, while they barely noticed I existed. I had access to something they desperately needed. Something they took for granted every single day. Little did I know, that promise about small gifts would destroy our family. But first, I need to tell you how deep this really went. What I didn't know that October afternoon was that I'd been subsidizing this family for years, and they were about to show me exactly what they thought I was worth. That evening, driving home through Denver traffic, Briar was quiet in the back seat. Too quiet. I glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "You okay, sweetheart?" "Yeah." But her voice was small, compressed into something tight. "Talk to me." She picked at her seatbelt. "Mom, does Grandma like Reagan and Sloan more than me?" My hands went white-knuckle tight on the steering wheel. Reagan and Sloan, Paige's perfect twins, spoiled in ways that made my teeth hurt. Mom had always doted on them, always made excuses for their behavior, always found reasons to give them more. "Of course not, baby. Grandma loves you very much." The lie tasted bitter coming out. Because even as I said it, I knew. She could feel it. The difference. The distance. The way Mom's attention slid right past her like she was background furniture. Then why doesn't she ever ask about my art? Or remember my soccer games? I had no answer for that. What I had was a growing knot of anger in my chest that I'd been ignoring for years. This pattern wasn't new. It went back decades. Growing up, Paige got the bigger room, the nicer clothes, the expensive birthday parties. I was the easy one, the one who didn't need much attention, the one who could figure things out herself. Mom always said I was independent, self-sufficient, like those were compliments instead of excuses for neglect. And now? That same pattern had transferred to our children. Paige's twins got the attention, the praise, the resources. My daughter got pats on the head and empty words, favoritism spanning 2 generations. But here's what they didn't know. Here's what I'd been keeping to myself for years. 2 weeks after that October visit, Mom called. "Just checking on the insurance renewal, honey. Everything's still good for next year?" "Yeah, Mom. You and Dad are covered. Paige and Kyle, too." "You're such a blessing, Cordelia. We don't know what we'd do without you." Let me tell you what that really meant. 4 years ago, Dad's company gutted their benefits. Their premiums tripled overnight. They were panicking. So I added them to my family plan without hesitation. Because that's what family does, right? $950 a month. That's what it cost me to keep them covered. $11,400 a year. For 4 years. Do the math. $45,600. And 18 months ago, when Kyle lost his job and they lost their insurance, I added Paige and Kyle too. Didn't even think twice about it. Nobody ever thanked me, not in a way that meant anything. Those hollow words, "You're such a blessing," felt like reading from a script. Empty. Meaningless. Have you ever been the family scapegoat? The one who gives and gives while everyone else just takes? If you're already calculating what I should do, hit subscribe, because what happens next will shock you. Thanksgiving came around. The usual chaos at my parents' house. Dad carved the turkey while Mom fussed over the twins, making sure they had extra helpings of everything they liked. Briar sat quietly, eating her food, not asking for anything special, not complaining. She'd learned early that asking meant getting overlooked. "Cordelia, you look exhausted," Paige said, fake concern dripping from every word. "Are you getting enough sleep?" It must be so hard handling everything alone. There it was. The subtle dig. The reminder that I was single. That I didn't have a partner to share the load. That somehow my life was lesser because of it. "I'm fine," I said flatly. "You should take better care of yourself. I worry about you. Being a single parent is so much harder than having a partner." I didn't respond. I'd learned years ago that engaging with Paige's comments only made things worse, but I filed it away. Another piece of evidence that something in this family had been broken for a very long time. But what I didn't know yet, what none of them knew, was that I had access to something they desperately needed, and I was about to use it. By December, Mom would show her true colors. And those colors? They cost exactly $1,400. December hit Denver hard. Snow and ice and bitter cold that cut through your coat. I was drowning in year-end reports at work, managing inventory crises across 3 states, dealing with staffing shortages that made every day feel like putting out fires. Briar started asking about Christmas, her excitement building despite my warnings. "Remember what Grandma said, sweetie. Everyone's getting small gifts this year. Nothing big." "I know, Mom. I don't need anything big anyway. I just want everyone to be together." 9 years old. Already more emotionally intelligent than half the adults in our family. We had our own traditions. Hot chocolate every Sunday morning, reading together before bed, weekend trips to the art museum where she'd study paintings for hours, asking questions about color theory and brush techniques. She was thoughtful, creative, kind. And watching her at family gatherings, watching her try to show Mom her drawings, try to tell her about school, only to get talked over by Reagan or Sloan every single time, it broke something in me I didn't know could break. Mid-December, I drove to Mom's house to drop off some insurance documents she needed to sign for the renewal. Just routine paperwork. Or so I thought. Paige was already there when I arrived. The twins were in the living room, playing on the massive gaming system Mom and Dad bought them last Christmas. 65 inches of screen. Surround sound. The works. "Perfect timing," Mom said, taking the papers from my hand. I was just showing Paige the Christmas gifts. Something in her tone made my stomach drop. I followed her to her bedroom, and that's when I saw them. Several wrapped packages sat on the bed. 2 large boxes with expensive wrapping paper. Glossy, professional-looking, the kind you get at boutique shops, not drugstores. And 1 small flat package with cheap wrap. The kind that rips when you try to fold the corners. My stomach went cold. The visual contrast was so blatant it felt like a slap. "Those 2 are for Reagan and Sloan," Mom said, pointing to the large boxes. "And that one's for Briar." "Mom," my voice came out tight. "You said everyone was getting something small." "These are small, practical anyway. The twins need new phones. Their old ones are practically ancient. They're barely a year old. Teenagers need good phones for school," Paige chimed in from the doorway. "You wouldn't understand. Briar's still young." I stared at the small package that was meant for my daughter. "What did you get Briar?" "Gloves," Mom said brightly. "Really nice ones. Thermal-lined. She's always complaining her hands get cold." Gloves. They were getting the twins' phones that cost at least $700 each. And Briar was getting gloves. "Mom, you promised small gifts for everyone." "These are small, considering what teenagers need these days." Her tone was defensive now, irritated that I was questioning her. Paige crossed her arms. "Mom's on a fixed income. She can't buy expensive things for everyone. You're being unreasonable." "Those phones cost $1,400. Minimum." "Kyle and I contributed some money," Paige admitted, like that made it better. "The kids really needed them." The room tilted, like the floor had shifted under my feet. I'd spent years making excuses for my family. Years convincing myself the unequal treatment wasn't as bad as it seemed, that I was being oversensitive, that I was reading too much into things, but this was blatant, this was cruel. "Briar won't mind," Mom said, completely missing or ignoring my distress. "She's such an easy child, not demanding like some kids." "She's easy because I've raised her to be grateful for what she has," I said, my voice shaking. "Not because she deserves less." "Nobody said she deserves less," Paige snapped. "You're making this dramatic. They're just Christmas presents." Just Christmas presents. Share your comment right now what you would do in this moment, because I was about to make a decision that would change everything. I left without another word. Drove home in a fog of rage so thick I could barely see the road. When I got there, Briar was at the kitchen table working on a drawing. She looked up when I came in, her face brightening. "Mom, look what I made. It's for Grandma for Christmas." She held up a carefully drawn portrait of our family, all of us together, smiling. The detail was extraordinary for a 9-year-old. She'd spent hours on it. I could tell. "It's beautiful, baby. Do you think she'll like it?" I looked at my daughter's hopeful face, at the artwork she'd poured her heart into, and something inside me shifted. Something fundamental. I'd protected her from so much, worked so hard to give her stability, but I'd failed to protect her from this, from the casual cruelty of people who should have loved her unconditionally. "She'll love it," I lied. But when I saw what Briar had made for Grandma, hours of careful work poured into a family portrait, that's when I knew. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was done. That night, after Briar was asleep, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, pulled up my health insurance portal, looked at the family plan covering 6 people. Me, Briar, my parents, Paige, and Kyle. $950 a month for 4 years. $45,600. I'd paid that without complaint, without asking for anything in return. And this was how they valued it. How they valued my daughter. I closed the laptop, but I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake, thinking about those wrapped packages, about phones and gloves, about 9-year-old Briar asking if Grandma loved her less. Maybe I'm overreacting, I thought. Maybe I'm being too sensitive. Maybe this isn't as bad as it seems. But then I'd think about Briar's face, that small flat package with drugstore wrap, the way Mom dismissed her as easy, like it was a character flaw instead of a testament to how well I'd raised her. And I'd realize, no, this was blatant. This was cruel. By morning, I knew exactly what I was going to do. And I wasn't going to feel guilty about it. The next day, I took Briar to the movies. Out for pizza afterward. She seemed better, more like herself. Though I caught her being unusually quiet during the film. At dinner, she pushed her pizza around her plate. "You okay, sweetheart?" "Yeah." But she wasn't. I could tell. "Briar, talk to me." She set down her fork. "Mom, why doesn't Grandma like me as much as Reagan and Sloan?" The question I'd been dreading. "It's complicated, baby." "Is it because I don't have a dad?" The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "No, Briar, no. That has nothing to do with anything. Reagan said her mom said that Grandma feels sorry for you because you're alone. That I'm probably harder to deal with because I don't have a dad to help discipline me." My hands clenched into fists under the table. Paige had said that. My sister had said that about my daughter. About me. And Mom had apparently agreed. Or at least hadn't corrected her. This is what they said when I wasn't around. This is how they talked about us. "Reagan shouldn't have said that," I managed, keeping my voice level. "And it's not true. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. You're kind and smart and creative. Any difference in how you're treated has nothing to do with you and everything to do with other people's problems." She looked at me with those big, serious eyes. "Are we going to keep going to Grandma's house?" Fair question. "I don't know yet. Do you want to?" She thought about it carefully. "I don't think so. Not right now." She made me feel bad. And there it was. My 9-year-old daughter, articulating what I'd been dancing around for years. Grandma made her feel bad, and she was relieved at the thought of stepping away. "Then we won't go," I said. "Not until you're ready. If ever." She nodded, satisfied, went back to her room to draw, and I realized I'd been so worried about protecting her from pain that I hadn't considered she might actually be relieved to step away from a situation that made her unhappy. What would you have done in her shoes? That night, I called my best friend Sloane. We'd been friends since college. She knew my family situation better than anyone. They did what? She exploded when I told her about the gifts. Phones and gloves. I'm going to drive to Denver right now and it gets worse. Briar asked me today if Grandma doesn't like her because she doesn't have a dad. Silence on the other end of the line. What are you going to do? I'm thinking about removing them from my insurance plan. All of them. Your parents and Paige? And Kyle. They'll lose their coverage. They'll have to find new insurance. More silence. Cordelia, are you serious about this? I pay almost $1,000 a month for people who think my daughter deserves gloves while their grandchildren get phones. People who let my sister say cruel things about us. People who have never once said thank you in a way that meant anything. Then do it, she said firmly. They deserve it. If you've ever had someone talk about your child behind your back, you know this rage. Subscribe if you want to see what I did next. Christmas morning arrived with fresh snow blanketing Denver. Briar woke up early, excited despite my repeated warnings about modest gifts. We opened our presents first. Just the two of us in our living room. I'd gotten her art supplies, the watercolor pencils she wanted, books she'd been eyeing, and a warm winter coat she actually needed. She'd used her allowance to buy me a hand-painted mug with "World's Best Mom" in her careful lettering. I held it and fought back tears. Do you love it? She asked anxiously. I love it more than anything. It's perfect. We were supposed to be at Mom and Dad's house by noon. I dressed carefully, made sure Briar looked neat. She carried the portrait she'd made for Mom. Wrapped in paper, she'd decorated herself with snowflakes and stars. When we arrived, Paige's family was already there. Reagan and Sloane were showing off new outfits they'd received that morning. Dad was in his chair, reading the paper, barely looking up when we came in. Merry Christmas! Mom rushed over, hugging the twins first, then patted Briar on the head. Go put your coats in the guest room, sweetie. I watched Briar carefully place the wrapped portrait under the tree, adjusting the tag that read, "To Grandma, Love Briar," in her neat handwriting. Lunch was chaos. Mom had made ham. Paige brought side dishes from some expensive gourmet store and made sure everyone knew it. The twins dominated the conversation, their social media follower counts, their volleyball team drama, their plans for the new year. Briar tried twice to add something to the conversation, got talked over by Reagan both times. I saw it happen. The moment she gave up. The moment she decided being quiet was easier than being ignored. Eventually, she just focused on her food. After lunch, it was time for presents. Mom played Santa, handing out gifts with great ceremony. She started with the twins. These are very special, she announced, handing them the large boxes. I know you girls have been wanting these. Reagan and Sloane tore into the wrapping paper, squealing when they saw the phone boxes. They immediately started opening them, completely ignoring everyone else in the room as they powered up their new devices. Mom, this is too much, Paige said, but her voice was pleased, satisfied. Only the best for my granddaughters, Mom replied. Then she picked up the small flat package. And this is for Briar. My daughter took it carefully, didn't tear the paper like the twins had, opened it slowly, almost reverently. When she saw what was inside, her expression didn't change. But I saw something die behind her eyes. Gloves, thermal-lined gloves from an outdoor store. Do you like them? Mom asked. They'll keep your hands nice and warm. Briar looked at the gloves, then at her cousins with their $1,400 phones, then back at the gloves. Thank you, Grandma, she said quietly. That's it? Paige laughed. Not even an excited thank you? Kids these days don't appreciate practical gifts. She said thank you, I said sharply. Well, she could sound more grateful, Mom added. Those gloves weren't cheap. Briar clutched the package, her small hands tight on the cardboard packaging. She wasn't crying, wasn't complaining. She was just sitting there, trying to understand why her cousins got phones, and she got gloves when Grandma promised everyone would get something small. "Mom," Briar whispered, leaning close to me. "Did I do something wrong?" Those 5 words broke something in me that I didn't even know could break. I pulled her into a hug, holding her tight against my side. "No, baby. You didn't do anything wrong. Not one single thing." Paige was helping the twins set up their phones. Mom was cooing over how excited they were. Dad was still reading his paper like nothing significant was happening. Nobody noticed that Briar had gone completely silent. Nobody cared. We stayed another hour, because leaving immediately would have caused a scene, and I was still trying to process my rage into something manageable. Briar thanked Mom 3 more times for the gloves, each time sounding smaller, more defeated. When it was time to open the gift she'd made, Mom barely glanced at the portrait. "Oh, how nice," she said, setting it aside to make room for wrapping paper she was collecting. "You're getting so good at drawing, honey." She put it on the side table, sandwiched between some magazines and a stack of mail. Briar saw where she'd put it, saw how little it mattered. Her face stayed neutral, but I knew her well enough to read the hurt there. The drive home was silent. When we got inside, Briar went straight to her room. I followed after a moment and found her sitting on her bed, still holding the package of gloves. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked again. And this time, her voice cracked. I sat down next to her and pulled her close. "No, sweetheart, you did everything right. This isn't about you." "Then why did Reagan and Sloan get phones and I got gloves?" I had no answer that would make this better. No explanation that would ease the hurt. So I just held her while she cried quietly into my shoulder, mourning something she was too young to fully understand, but old enough to feel deeply. If you have kids, you know why this changes everything. Drop it if you'd protect your child the same way I'm about to. That night, after Briar cried herself to sleep, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, pulled up that insurance portal one more time, and I smiled, because I knew exactly what I was going to do, and nothing, absolutely nothing, was going to stop me. The day after Christmas, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Briar was still sleeping, exhausted from crying herself out the night before. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table, staring at my laptop screen. My family plan, 6 people, $950 a month. I pulled up my phone and scrolled through the photos from yesterday. There was one Paige had posted on social media. Reagan and Sloan holding their new phones, huge smiles on their faces. The caption, "Spoiled by the best grandma ever. These girls are so blessed." Blessed. The word made my stomach turn. I looked at the insurance portal again. The next billing cycle started January 1st. 5 days away, changes to the family plan could be made up until December 31st at midnight. Perfect timing. But I didn't do anything yet. This wasn't a decision to make in anger. This needed to be deliberate, certain. I spent the day with Briar, took her to the movies, out for pizza afterward. She seemed better, more like herself. December 29th arrived. I had spent 2 days going back and forth, questioning myself, wondering if I was overreacting. But every time I wavered, I thought about Briar's face when she opened those gloves. I thought about her asking if she'd done something wrong. At 9 p.m., I logged into the insurance portal. My hands were steady as I navigated to the family plan section. One by one, I removed them. Dad. Click. Mom. Click. Paige. Click. Kyle. Click. 4 names. 4 clicks. The system asked me to confirm. I confirmed. "Are you sure?" Yes. I was sure. The changes would take effect January 1st. They'd receive notification letters in the mail within a week, informing them their coverage had ended. Until then, I had roughly 48 hours of peace before everything exploded. I closed my laptop and felt something settle in my chest. Not quite peace, but something close. A sense that I had finally stood up for my daughter, for myself. December 30th passed quietly. Briar and I stayed home, organizing her new art supplies, reading together, just being present with each other. My phone rang 3 times. Mom, Paige, Mom again. I didn't answer. I wasn't ready yet. December 31st came, New Year's Eve. The notification letters had been sent. They'd probably arrive by January 2nd or 3rd. I had that long before everything exploded. Briar and I spent New Year's Eve watching movies and eating popcorn. At midnight, we banged pots and pans together like we did every year, making noise to welcome the new year. She was laughing, happy. For the first time in days, she seemed like herself again. January 1st arrived with fresh snow and quiet streets. My phone rang 4 times that day. I still didn't answer. January 2nd. The calls became more frequent. 6 times from Mom, 3 from Paige, 2 from Dad, which was unusual because he never called me directly for anything. I let them all go to voicemail. That evening, I finally listened to the messages. Mom's first message: Cordelia, honey, call me back when you get this. I need to ask you something about the insurance. Her second: Cordelia, I got a letter today saying our coverage is ending. There must be some mistake. Can you call the insurance company and sort this out? Her third: Cordelia, this isn't funny. Call me back right now. Paige's messages got progressively angrier. Mom got a weird letter about insurance. Do you know anything about this? Then, Cordelia, pick up your phone. Then, are you seriously ignoring us? What is wrong with you? Dad's message was tired. Cordelia, your mother is very upset. Please call us back. I didn't call back. Not yet. Before you judge what I did, wait until you hear their response. If you're still here, you're the type who understands boundaries. Please subscribe. January 3rd arrived with my phone ringing at 7 in the morning. I'd been awake for an hour, anticipating this moment. It was Mom. And she was about to learn that the easy daughter was done being easy. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hello? Cordelia. Mom's voice was shrill with panic. Finally, I've been trying to reach you for days. Did you get my messages? I did. I poured myself coffee. Let the silence stretch. Then why didn't you call back? We got letters saying our health insurance is being canceled. There has to be a mistake. You need to call them and fix it. I took a sip of coffee. It's not a mistake, Mom. What? I removed you, Dad, Paige, and Kyle from my family plan. The coverage ended January 1st. The silence on the other end was deafening. Then, you did what? I removed you from my insurance. You'll need to find your own coverage now. Cordelia, you can't do that. We need that insurance. Your father has doctor appointments scheduled. I have prescriptions that need refilling. You can't just cancel our insurance. I can, actually. It's my plan. I've been paying for it for 4 years. But we're family. You can't just abandon us like this. The word abandon hit something raw in me. Like you abandoned my daughter on Christmas when you gave her cousins $1,400 phones and gave her gloves? Oh, for heaven's sake. Is this what this is about? You're upset about Christmas presents? I'm upset that you promised everyone would get something small, then gave Reagan and Sloan expensive gifts while Briar got gloves. I'm upset that you didn't see anything wrong with that. I'm upset that when my 9-year-old asked if she'd done something wrong, I had no good answer for her. She's being dramatic. They're just presents. She's 9 years old, Mom, and she's not being dramatic. She asked me if you don't like her because she doesn't have a father. Do you know why she asked that? Silence. Because Reagan told her that Paige said you feel sorry for me for being alone. That Briar is probably harder to raise because she doesn't have a dad to help discipline her. Did Paige say that? More silence. She shouldn't have said that, Mom finally managed. But she did. And apparently you agreed. Or at least you didn't correct her. So Briar, who is 9, thinks her grandmother doesn't love her as much because her father left. Cordelia, you're blowing this out of proportion. Am I? Because from where I'm standing, my daughter received the message loud and clear that she's worth less than her cousins. And I'm done pretending that's acceptable. So you're going to punish us by taking away our health insurance? That's incredibly vindictive. I laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. Vindictive. I've been paying for your insurance for 4 years. I added Paige and Kyle when they needed help. I've never asked for anything in return. But the moment I stop giving you something, I'm vindictive? We need that insurance. Then you should have treated my daughter with basic respect. You should have kept your promise about small gifts. You should have thought about how your actions would affect a child. We can't afford the premiums on our own. You know that. Then maybe you shouldn't have spent $1,400 on phones for the twins. That's different. How? Explain to me how that's different. She couldn't, or wouldn't. Silence stretched between us. Finally. Your father and I raised you better than this. We taught you about family loyalty. You taught me that family means being there for people even when they don't deserve it. But you forgot to teach me that it should go both ways. I hung up before she could respond. The phone rang again immediately. Paige, this time. What the hell is wrong with you? She screamed before I could even say hello. Mom just called me crying. You canceled our insurance? I removed you from my family plan. Yes. How could you do that? Kyle and I need that coverage. We have 2 kids. You also have 2 incomes. You can afford your own insurance. You're such a martyr. You always have to make everything about you. This isn't about me, Paige. It's about Briar. When she opened her present and saw what she got compared to her cousins, something broke in her, and none of you noticed or cared. She's fine. Kids need to learn that life isn't fair. Paige's voice changed, got colder, sharper. Mom said you're jealous because I have a husband and you don't, that you've always resented me for having a complete family. There it was. The real truth. What they said about me when I wasn't around. You know what, Paige? You're right. I am jealous. I'm jealous that your kids have a grandmother who loves them. I'm jealous that you've never had to question whether you matter to our parents. I'm jealous that you get to take family support for granted, while I've spent years earning crumbs of affection. You can't do this. I already did. Find your own insurance, Paige. Consider it a lesson in independence. I hung up on her too. The phone rang 6 more times that day. I didn't answer any of them. I had said everything I needed to say. Comment, the audacity. If you can't believe they're calling me vindictive, because it gets worse. The next 2 weeks were predictable chaos, but what I didn't expect was the certified letter that arrived mid-February. They weren't just angry anymore. They were suing me. The next 2 weeks were exactly what I expected. Mom called daily, alternating between guilt trips and anger. Paige sent text messages ranging from pleading to threatening. Dad called once more, trying to be the voice of reason, asking me to reconsider. I didn't reconsider. What I hadn't anticipated was how the rest of my family would react. My aunt, Mom's sister, called to say I was being cruel. My uncle sent an email about the importance of family forgiveness. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly had opinions about my decision. The narrative Mom had constructed was simple. I was being vindictive over Christmas presents. I was punishing sick, elderly parents over a petty disagreement. I was putting my pride above family needs. What they didn't know, because Mom conveniently left it out, was that I'd been paying for their insurance for 4 years, $45,600, that I'd supported Paige through her rough patch, that the petty disagreement was about a child being made to feel worthless. Work became my refuge. I threw myself into a massive project, reorganizing distribution networks across 5 Western states. Complex, demanding work that required my full attention. My boss Vivian noticed something was off one day in late January. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Family stuff," I said vaguely. She nodded, understanding that sometimes that's all that needs to be said. "Well, if you need anything, let me know. You're doing exceptional work on this project, by the way." The validation felt good. At least someone appreciated what I contributed. At home, Briar had started coming out of her shell again, drawing more, talking more, seeming lighter somehow. One evening, she brought me a new picture. "It's us," she said, showing me a drawing of just the 2 of us standing in front of our house, our family. I looked at the picture, at how carefully she'd drawn each detail, at how happy we both looked. "It's perfect," I said. "Are we still going to see Grandma?" she asked. "I don't know. Do you want to?" She thought about it seriously. "I don't think so. Not right now. She made me feel bad." "Then we won't go. Not until you're ready. If ever." She nodded, satisfied, went back to her room. Mid-February brought something I didn't expect, a certified letter from my parents' attorney. I stared at the envelope for a full minute before opening it. Inside was a legal notice. I was being sued for financial abandonment and elder neglect. They were claiming that by removing them from my insurance, I had violated my duty of care as their daughter and put their health at risk. I couldn't believe what I was reading. They were suing me. My own parents were taking me to court because I stopped paying for their insurance. I immediately called a lawyer, someone Vivian recommended. His name was Thaddeus, and he specialized in family law. I met with him the next day. "Have you seen this kind of case before?" I asked, sliding the letter across his desk. Thaddeus read it carefully. His expression stayed neutral. "I've seen similar attempts. They rarely succeed. Adult children aren't legally obligated to provide health insurance for their parents unless there's a specific care agreement in place. Do you have any written agreement with them?" "No, I just added them to my plan when they needed help, out of kindness." "And they're claiming elder neglect because you stopped?" "Apparently." Thaddeus leaned back in his chair. "Here's what's going to happen. We'll respond to this letter. We'll point out that you have no legal obligation to provide insurance, that you did so voluntarily for 4 years, and that they have other options available to them. The case will likely be dismissed before it even gets to court." "How much is this going to cost me?" "My retainer is $3,000. It probably won't go beyond that unless they really push it, which I doubt they will once they realize they have no legal standing. $3,000. Money I'd have to spend because my parents decided to sue me rather than simply find their own insurance." "Do it," I said. "Draft the response." When I got home that evening, there was a car in my driveway I didn't recognize. As I parked, I saw Paige sitting on my front porch steps. "We need to talk," she said as I got out. "I don't think we do." "Please, Cordelia, just 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I let her inside. Briar was at an after-school art program and wouldn't be home for another hour. We stood in my kitchen, neither of us sitting. "Mom and Dad are suing you," Paige said. "I know. I got the letter." "That's insane. I told them not to do it." "Did you?" "Yes. This whole thing has gotten completely out of hand. I came here to ask you to reconsider." "Reconsider what, exactly?" "Putting us back on your insurance, before the lawsuit goes any further." I stared at her, genuinely surprised. "So you want me to pay almost $1,000 a month and pretend nothing happened?" I want us to be a family again. I laughed, bitter and sharp. We were never a family, Paige. A family doesn't treat one child better than another. A family doesn't sue each other over insurance. A family doesn't say cruel things and expect them to be forgotten because dealing with consequences is inconvenient. I'm sorry about what I said, about you being alone, about Briar being harder to raise. I shouldn't have said that. But you did say it, and you meant it. And Mom agreed with you. She didn't agree. She didn't disagree either. And that's the problem. None of you have ever stood up for Briar. Or for me. You've taken what I've given and acted like it was owed to you. Well, it's not. And I'm done. Paige's eyes filled with tears. Please. Kyle and I are drowning in premium costs. We can't afford this. You could have afforded it if you hadn't spent $1,400 on phones. That was different. Stop saying that. My voice rose. I couldn't help it. It wasn't different. You had a choice where to spend your money and you chose phones over insurance. That's fine. Those are your kids and your priorities. But don't ask me to subsidize that choice. She stood there, crying. And I felt nothing but tired. I'm not putting you back on my insurance. Find your own coverage, Paige. She left, angry and crying, and I poured myself wine and wondered how my family had become this broken. If you think the lawsuit is outrageous, wait until you hear what the judge says, and please subscribe if you are yet to so. You'll see how this ends. March brought a court date. My parents thought I'd cave before the hearing. They were wrong. And the day before court, my father made a call that would change everything, or at least, try to. March arrived with warmer weather and a court date. Thaddeus had been right. The lawsuit was weak. But my parents were pushing forward anyway, hoping I'd cave before it got to an actual hearing. They underestimated how done I was with their manipulation. The day before the hearing, I got an unexpected call. Dad, not Mom. Cordelia, can we talk? Just you and me. I hesitated. What's there to talk about? Please, coffee somewhere. Just 30 minutes. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a cafe near my office. Neutral territory. Dad looked older than I remembered. More tired. Your mother doesn't know I'm here, he started. That seems to be a theme in this family. People doing things behind other people's backs. He winced. I deserve that. Cordelia, I want you to know that I didn't agree with how Christmas went. I thought the gift disparity was wrong. Then why didn't you say anything? Because I've spent several years not saying anything when your mother favors Paige, because it was easier to keep the peace than to fight about it. He sighed. And where did that get any of us? You're right. I should have spoken up. I should have done it years ago. But I'm here now, asking you to drop this before it goes to court. You could resolve it by putting us back on your insurance. Why would I do that? Because we're family. I set my coffee down carefully. You keep using that word like it means something. But family is supposed to protect each other. Family is supposed to treat everyone equally. Family is supposed to care when a child is hurt. We do care about Briar. When was the last time you called to ask how she's doing? When was the last time you came to one of her art shows? When was the last time you treated her like she mattered as much as Reagan and Sloan? Dad couldn't answer. We both knew the truth. I'm not putting you back on my insurance. I'm not paying for people who think my daughter is disposable. If you want to take me to court, fine. But you're going to lose, and you're going to pay your attorney fees. And at the end of it, you're still going to need to find your own insurance. Your mother will never forgive you for this. I've accepted that. I stood up. I'll see you in court tomorrow, Dad. That evening, I sat with Briar while she did homework. She was working on a writing assignment about someone she admired. I glanced at her paper and saw she'd written about me. My mom works really hard. She always makes sure I have what I need. She's brave and strong, and she loves me no matter what. She teaches me that it's okay to stand up for yourself. Tears pricked my eyes. Briar, this is beautiful. She smiled, that pure, uncomplicated smile that reminded me exactly why I was doing all of this. The next morning, I dressed carefully for court. Thaddeus met me outside the courtroom, looking confident. They're going to try to paint you as uncaring and vindictive. Just stick to the facts. You have no legal obligation. You did so voluntarily. You stopped. End of story. Inside the courtroom, I saw my parents sitting with their attorney, a man in an expensive suit who looked annoyed to be there. Paige was in the gallery with other family members. They all stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. The hearing began. My parents' attorney presented their case, that I had abandoned elderly parents who relied on my insurance, that I had acted maliciously and without warning, that my actions had caused them severe emotional and financial distress. It was twisted. He made it sound like I'd ripped insurance away from helpless, frail people rather than stopped paying for able-bodied adults who could afford their own coverage. Then it was Thaddeus's turn. Your Honor, this case can be summarized very simply. The plaintiffs are alleging that the defendant has a legal obligation to provide health insurance coverage. She does not. He laid out the facts methodically. I was 37 years old, employed. No legal agreement to provide care. I had voluntarily added them 4 years prior. Paid premiums totaling over $45,600. Added my sister and brother-in-law too, supporting 6 people on my plan. At no point did the defendant sign any document agreeing to provide this coverage indefinitely. The defendant acted out of kindness, not obligation. And when she chose to discontinue that kindness, she was well within her rights. The judge looked at my parents' attorney. Does your client have documentation showing a legal obligation? The attorney shuffled papers. No, Your Honor, but there's an implied obligation of care between parent and child. In reverse? The judge interrupted. You're arguing that adult children have an implied obligation to provide insurance for their parents? The plaintiffs are both in their early 60s, Thaddeus added. Employed part-time, have access to marketplace insurance. They are not indigent or incapable of securing their own coverage. The judge looked at me. Miss Cordelia, is there anything you'd like to add? I stood. My voice was steady. Your Honor, I love my parents. I helped them because I wanted to. But over time, I realized my help was taken for granted. That my contributions were expected but not appreciated. That my daughter was being treated differently than her cousins. When I made the decision to remove them, it wasn't out of malice, it was out of self-preservation, and a need to protect my child from ongoing hurt. This is about Christmas presents? The judge asked. It's about more than that, Your Honor. But the Christmas incident made it clear my family didn't value my daughter the way they valued my sister's children. I had to make a choice about whether to continue subsidizing people who treated my child as less important. Mom stood, her voice shaking. She's my daughter. She's supposed to take care of us. We raised her, gave her everything. And this is how she repays us? I couldn't stay quiet. You gave me everything? You gave Paige everything. You gave me leftovers and criticism, and the constant message I wasn't as good as my sister. I spent my life trying to earn your approval, and I never did. So yes, I stopped paying for your insurance, because I finally realized I don't owe you anything just because you're my parents. Parents are supposed to earn their children's loyalty and love. You didn't earn mine. That's enough, the judge said, but not unkindly. He looked tired, like he'd seen too many families destroy themselves in his courtroom. Here's my ruling. The plaintiffs have no legal standing. Adult children are not obligated to provide health insurance for their parents. The defendant acted within her rights to remove the plaintiffs from her insurance plan. Case dismissed. He banged his gavel, and it was over. Outside, Thaddeus shook my hand. You did well in there. Sometimes families need hard boundaries. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in months. I had won not just the court case, but something bigger. I had proven to myself that I could stand up to my family's manipulation and survive it. When I picked up Briar from school, she climbed into the car with a big smile. How was your day, Mom? It was good, sweetie. Really good. If the judge's ruling gave you chills, wait until you see what happened to them after. Subscribe so you don't miss the consequences. Winning in court was one thing, but watching them deal with the consequences over the next year, that was justice. And it was only just beginning. The months that followed were quieter than I expected. My parents and Paige found their own insurance, expensive, but manageable. The lawsuit had cost them money and dignity, and they finally understood I wasn't reversing my decision. In April, my aunt called. Different tone this time. Your mother told me the whole story, about the Christmas presents, about what you'd been paying. I'm sorry I judged you without knowing the facts. Your mom has always favored Paige. It wasn't fair to you growing up. I should have said something back then. Work continued going well. Vivian promoted me to senior regional manager in May, with a significant raise. You've been doing exceptional work. You're organized, reliable, and you handle pressure well. The company needs more people like you in leadership. That summer, I took Briar to Colorado Springs. A real vacation. We spent a week hiking, exploring mountain towns. She took hundreds of photos, filled a sketchbook with drawings. This is the best trip ever, she said one evening. Better than Christmas? I teased gently. She thought about it. Way better. Because here, it's just us. And we're happy. Out of the mouths of children. In June, I got a text from Dad. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself and Briar. I should have done more to protect you both. I'm sorry. It wasn't everything I needed, but it was something. Briar started 4th grade in September, confident and happy. She'd made close friends who appreciated her creativity and kindness. Her teacher called me in October for a parent conference. I expected bad news. Instead, she smiled. I just wanted to tell you what a wonderful child you have. Briar is thoughtful, hardworking, incredibly talented artistically. She's also very emotionally mature for her age. You're doing an amazing job with her. Tears pricked my eyes. Thank you. That means a lot. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. She's thriving. Briar's birthday party in November was loud, chaotic, and perfect. 8 children running around our house, eating pizza, decorating picture frames, playing games. No mention of Reagan or Sloan. No mention of wanting to see my parents or Paige. I watched Briar laughing with her friends and realized this was what childhood was supposed to look like. Joy without conditions. Love without comparison. Christmas came again. Our second one without my extended family. Briar and I had new traditions. Decorating the tree together. Watching old movies. Volunteering at a shelter on Christmas Eve. Christmas morning, Briar opened her presents with genuine excitement. Art supplies, books, a tablet for digital art. Everything chosen with thought and care. This is perfect, Mom. Thank you. Do you miss them? She asked later. Grandma and Grandpa and Aunt Paige? I thought about it honestly. Sometimes I miss the idea of them, the family I wished we could be. But I don't miss how they made us feel. Me neither, she said. I like it better this way. Just us. As for them, the lawsuit cost thousands in legal fees they couldn't recover. Their insurance premiums were triple what they'd paid under my plan, eating into retirement savings. Paige and Kyle's marriage strained under the financial pressure. Mom's reputation in the extended family suffered as the truth spread. Reagan and Sloan began asking uncomfortable questions about why they never saw their cousin anymore. They had gambled that I would always be the reliable one, the one who swallowed hurt for the sake of peace. They lost that gamble, and the price was higher than they'd imagined. 2 years later, I can say with certainty, I have zero regrets. Briar is thriving in ways I never imagined. She won a regional young artists competition. Her painting was displayed at the Capitol building. She's confident, creative, surrounded by people who genuinely value her. My career flourished. I've been promoted again. Given more responsibility but also more flexibility. More time with Briar. Those gloves are still in Briar's drawer. I've thought about throwing them away 100 times, but I keep them as a reminder of the moment everything changed. The moment I finally chose my daughter over dysfunction. The moment I stopped accepting less than we deserved. Sometimes the best revenge isn't what you do to someone. It's what you stop doing for them. I stopped subsidizing people who treated my daughter as disposable. I stopped accepting crumbs of affection. I stopped pretending inequality was normal. And in return, I got my life back. My peace back. My daughter's happiness back. That's not vindictive. That's justice. If you've ever been the family scapegoat, the one who gives and gives while getting nothing back, you're not crazy. You're not overreacting. Setting boundaries doesn't make you the villain. Standing up for yourself doesn't make you selfish. It makes you strong. If you've ever had to cut off toxic family members, drop a comment. Tell your story. You're not alone in this. We're all out here, building better lives, protecting our peace, refusing to settle for treatment that diminishes us. Because sometimes walking away from family isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a better one. Your peace matters more than their comfort. Your child's emotional safety matters more than maintaining dysfunction. And you deserve relationships that fill you up instead of drain you dry. Stand firm. Stand up. Stand proud. You're doing the right thing. Have you ever been treated like the family scapegoat? Comment below and share your experience. Subscribe Revenge with Nick if you want more real stories about setting boundaries, standing up to family dysfunction, and choosing yourself when everyone else expects you to stay small, because you deserve better. And it's time someone told you that.